You should prepare carefully for the release of the new expansion. This time, Blizzard has made several major adjustments to the in-game economy and even changed the premium purchase options. In this video, we'll answer a few key questions. Should you take advantage of the last opportunity to pre-order? What has changed in the rewards track, and why could this negatively affect your desire to make a purchase? How many packs should you open on day one to build a strong, useful collection? What's going on with the pre-release Tavern Brawl? And most importantly, in the second part of this video, we'll share the community's overall reaction to the new legendary cards to answer the ultimate question. Is the new set truly worth investing your resources in?
Time to rock and roll!
Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician and this is Holomancer.
Also, Chief Investigative Reporter Dora joined us this evening.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Due to the renewed Russian missile attacks on Ukraine's civilian infrastructure and energy sector, we are facing new challenges. Frequent power outages and lack of heating. The cold weather only makes things worse.
Under such conditions, our technical capabilities are again limited. Because of this, we couldn't produce several planned videos, including one dedicated to the features of the upcoming expansion. In this video, we're combining two formats. First, a short guide on what you should know before the release, and then an overview of the community's and content creators' reactions to the new legendary cards, along with the early impressions from the pre-release Tavern Brawl.
Let's start with the basics. The Hearthstone team continues to expand the generosity of free rewards in the game. The Lost City of Ngoro phase set a new record. We discussed this in a separate video with the team. The essence is that we are now very close to the point where it's possible to collect every new card completely for free, without tedious grinding. You can find more details and calculations in that video.
However, there's a nuance. The rewards are evenly distributed across the entire expansion phase. If you open too many packs right at the start, the rewards you earn later may lose their value and turn into dust. I keep hearing players complain that rewards feel pointless because they already have everything they need.
For this reason, regular players who are used to buying pre-orders should reconsider where they invest their gold. When you buy a pre-order bundle, spending all your gold on packs becomes mostly meaningless in the long run. Instead, consider using gold to purchase hero skins or golden packs to expand your premium collection. The game's economy now allows for this flexibility.
From my own experience, the optimal number of packs to open at launch ranges between 100 and 130. This total includes standard saved packs, free packs earned during pre-release events, and those received on launch day. With average luck, opening 100 packs at the start should be enough to complete your collection of all epic cards by the end of the phase, assuming Blizzard doesn't reduce reward generosity. In addition, you'll likely be close to completing your set of legendary cards. Opening 130 packs may bring you right to the threshold of a full collection by the end of the expansion, excluding the mini set, provided you dust all extra copies to fill in the gaps. Still, luck remains a factor. Consider yourself fortunate if you pull a golden or signature legendary from your packs. As some of you know, I've been running an experiment to test these calculations through personal experience. Last time, I opened 130 packs. This time, I plan to open 100 packs at launch to see how my progression develops by the end of the phase.
The liberalization of the in-game economy has had a huge impact on the cost of adaptation for new and returning players. If you've been thinking about returning, or joining for the first time, now is an excellent moment to do so.
Pre-orders aren't mandatory but can help you adapt quickly and minimize future expenses. By the end of the phase, you'll naturally build a large, useful collection, and you'll be able to direct your extra resources toward crafting cards from the previous two expansions of the year. You'll also have the chance to save gold for a fast, free start in the next expansion. In about 5 months, a rotation will take place, removing the 3 oldest sets from standard, and by that time, you'll already own most of what you'll need. Moreover, this time, by purchasing both pre-order bundles, you'll receive an additional bonus, a golden legendary card. It's a fantastic gift for collectors and also a highly flexible item for returning players. This card effectively works as a token, allowing you to convert it into any legendary you might need.
However, players should pay close attention to the Tavern Pass this time, as Blizzard has prepared a very controversial surprise. In short, the developers removed the 3 hero skins previously awarded at level 100 and replaced them with the signature legendary Azure Queen Syndragosa. From a collector's perspective, for those aiming to gather a wide variety of gameplay elements, this is an outstanding update. On average, purchasing the Tavern Pass and opening even 100 packs at launch should give you a full card collection by the end of the phase. You'll only need to spend gold on the mini set, while the rest can be saved for the next expansion's launch. For collectors of signature cards, replacing the portraits with Azure Queen Cindergosa is also a good trade-off. However, if your goal is to gather as many useful cards as possible rather than the full collection, the community's reaction to this card will help determine how valuable it truly is. You'll find out more about that in the second part of this video.
However, if you primarily viewed the Tavern Pass as an opportunity to refresh the portraits of all 11 heroes, this change is likely more of a downgrade than an improvement for you.
Overall, the Tavern Pass deserves its own dedicated video. We originally planned to release it before the expansion's launch, but now we're not sure we'll have time. Still, our point is simple. If you support this new approach, vote for it with your wallet. If you don't, skip the purchase. Your activity will help Blizzard's leadership decide whether this experiment is worth continuing in future expansions.
Before we move on to the overall ranking of the new legendary cards, we'd like to ask for your help. For over a year, we've been closely monitoring player impressions of the standard metagame, trying to identify deeper patterns.
For example, does a higher level of satisfaction increase players' desire to play more and make more purchases?
The Lost City of Ngoro phase stands out for its record low satisfaction rate compared to previous ones. This hasn't led to a noticeable drop in revenue, at least on mobile platforms, but it might have affected player engagement, and that's exactly what we're trying to find out. If we subtract the XP gained from quests from your current rewards track level and know the percentage of players who purchased the Tavern Pass, we can roughly estimate how much time you've been spending in the game daily over the past 4 months. That's the metric we're after, because it may reveal just how significant player disappointment truly is. Please help us continue our research and observations. All you have to do is leave a comment below with your current level on the rewards track. If you'd like, you can also share your percentage of completed the Lost City of Ngoro achievements, the ones that grant XP.
The more data we gather, the more accurate our conclusions will be. Every comment counts. Thank you so much.
Now let's finally talk about players' expectations and emotions during the reveal season.
We're continuing our traditional tracking of community ratings during the pre-release period. This can help you identify which cards to celebrate when you open them, and get a general sense of the set's potential overall. But personally, we love star ratings for a different reason. For their bold assumptions, wild theories, and unexpected surprises.
As always, I secretly followed the channels of popular YouTubers and carefully wrote down their ratings in my notebook. That's how I collected tier lists and star ratings from Zeddy, Regis Kilbin, and Raren. And finally, I managed to get the rating from Clark Hellscream, who, more than once, has published his tier list right after I'd already sent the data to the team for analysis. It's also become a good tradition to include user ratings from the HS Set Review website. This fantastic platform allows users to rate every card in the expansion and compiles those scores. Among the many entries, you can even find ratings from your favorite Twitch streamers and YouTubers. Since the site uses a 4-star system, we've adapted the results to fit a 5-star format.
A major part of the final score comes from the results of our own community poll. Dear viewers, thank you so much to everyone who took part. Without your input, this rating would be incomplete.
Here's how the final ratings page looks. To the right of each card, you'll see our community score. At the top, the aggregated rating from the HS Set Review site. On the sides, the individual ratings from popular YouTube creators. And finally, at the bottom of each section, you'll find the total star rating and a visual badge summarizing the card's overall status across all sources. The final score weighs the community votes, each content creator's rating, and the HS Set Review average equally.
Dear viewers, we've put a lot of work into this, and we'd be incredibly grateful for your like, subscription, and a ring of the notification bell. That would be the best reward for us in these challenging times. Alright guys, let's finally move on to the results, and after that, we'll return to share our impressions.
Oh, legendary!
Now you know how prominent creators and the player community rated the new cards. Based on the overall evaluation of all legendary cards, this is the weakest set of the past 2 years. The average score sits at 2.8 stars, slightly lower than the Lost City of Ungoro.
Undoubtedly, this cannot serve as a final verdict for the new set, but if you look at the overall results, you'll see that the community's expectations tend to align closely with reality. Perils in Paradise stands head and shoulders above the other standard sets, especially when it comes to legendary cards. Emerald Dream is performing surprisingly well so far, though it's still too early to judge. Meanwhile, Whizbang's Workshop has already stood the test of time. Surprisingly, this set has retained its usefulness within the current meta. Based on its impact on the metagame, I'd say the weakest expansion is the Great Dark Beyond. According to the community's pre-release expectations, its scores were among the lowest, and indeed the set had minimal impact on the meta from the start. Across the Timeways might attempt to break this pattern, but only if its cards manage to prove themselves competitive. Otherwise, the trend of the community's predictions being relatively accurate will continue.
Personally, I believe the set contains many fascinating mechanics. I love it from a design philosophy perspective. Yet at the same time, it's another expansion that struggles to fit into the current metagame. We made a separate video dedicated to the new mechanics, where we concluded that most of the new cards simply don't have a chance to become viable in today's meta, unless they're supported by toxic combos or strong synergies that allow players to abuse their effects.
I feel deeply disappointed, because once again, we're getting cards that embody everything we love about Hearthstone, yet it seems that none of this will actually impact the metagame.
A clear warning sign of this disaster was the unprecedented failure of the pre-release Tavern Brawl. Just to remind you, deck building included all free cards, the new set, and the Lost City of Ungoro expansion. We processed data from HS Guru, and here's what we found. 2/3 of the metagame was dominated by Quest Warlock and Quest Warrior. The Warrior archetype had an average win rate of 63%. Among the new strategies, the most notable one was Shredslock, with a 5% popularity share, but its overall win rate stayed below 50%. Next came another Warlock deck, Animancer Warlock, built around Reform synergy. The large number of warriors in the meta created a favorable environment for it, yet its win rate also averaged below 50%. And that's it. We couldn't find any other prominent new strategies, though a few small experiments were visible. At best, old archetypes adopted 1 or 2 new cards, and that was the full extent of the new set's influence during the pre-release Tavern Brawl. The unplayable quests effectively destroyed the new set's potential in that format. It was a sad sight to behold. The catastrophic situation was confirmed by the developer's next move, banning all quests outright. If the new cards are significantly weaker in direct competition than one of the least impactful expansions in Hearthstone's history, what are the chances that Across the Timeways will have any noticeable impact on Standard? The likelihood that we've just received the worst set in the game's history is growing considerably.
Dear viewers, I know what you might say. New mechanics can't dominate because most players didn't pre-order and can't build new decks. And you'd be right. But we weren't expecting new decks to reach the top either. Roughly a quarter of the player base pre-orders expansions and thus has enough new cards to experiment. Reform is a great example. Owning that card made new deck building possible, and we can see players were experimenting with it. The problem isn't that new playstyles are invisible, it's that players simply don't want to use the new cards they have, because they don't believe those cards can win games. Here's the updated list based on data collected a day after the quest bans were announced. Unsurprisingly, old archetypes dominated, completely predictable. I highlighted decks using at least 1 new card in yellow. Roughly half of them used only 1 to 3 new cards in total. No Minion Demon Hunter relied heavily on new cards and, in these artificial conditions, performed impressively well. Arcane Mage also leaned on wide synergy with new cards but had much less success. Shred's Lock became slightly more efficient, while the Reform archetype disappeared altogether. The deck became at least somewhat noticeable shortly before the release of this video. No Hand Hunter and Handbuff Priest also used more new cards than average, though their win rates remained too low. And finally, the cherry on top, Loagash Warrior, the best performing deck at that point, although its current effectiveness has still decreased. Interestingly, it too relied on a broad pool of new cards.
Thus, banning quests made new strategies more visible, but still, there weren't that many of them, and most weren't efficient even under these favorable conditions compared to the Lost City of Ungoro.
What's shocking is the developer's unprecedented negligence. You don't have to be an expert to predict the domination of quest-based strategies, or players' natural desire to try things that don't work well in Standard. It's becoming increasingly clear that the game simply isn't being properly tested, which inevitably leads to extremely disappointing releases. But you know what? If we set aside the imbalance between old and new strategies, the low impact of the new set, and the meta's monotony, the pre-release Tavern Brawl actually offers a very different kind of gameplay experience. And I really love the concept of this event. It feels completely fresh, a genuine breath of air compared to the current Standard. In theory, this is exactly the kind of experience I miss most: slower paced, less explosive, with fewer overwhelming combos or chaotic interactions. I don't mean it should replace Standard, but I'd love to have regular access to such an alternative. Something calmer, more deliberate, and more reminiscent of Hearthstone's classic design principles, the ones we always talk about. The last 3 expansions have all been built around that very philosophy, and I think it's a huge mistake not to let players access that kind of gameplay more often.
What saddens me most is how strongly players want to believe that the new mechanics from across the timeways will somehow be competitive, despite the harsh reality.
And this completely irrational hope directly skews the data. According to our community poll, the vast majority of our viewers believe that Rewind and Fabled will end up competitive.
Yet this is the same audience that gave the new cards low ratings throughout the reveal season. It's a vivid example of how emotional bias can distort audience surveys. Players continue to hope for a miracle, even though they rationally understand that most new legendary cards don't fit the current competitive landscape. That's exactly why we're trying to measure how player dissatisfaction affects their willingness to spend money and play less overall. So please, if you haven't already, share your current level on the rewards track.
In any case, this kind of hope is unfortunately a bad sign, because it only makes the eventual disappointment worse.
As a result, we feel that we'll get a very solid expansion on its own, but everything suggests that its release will once again fall on unprepared ground.
But despite all our rationality, we too are hoping for a miracle, that the new cards will prove competitive beyond toxic interactions and help make Standard a better, more dynamic format. A miracle is exactly what we all need right now.
Dear viewers, in the end, we're interested in only one question. Do you like the gameplay experience offered by the new pre-release Tavern Brawl? We understand it's difficult to judge it positively due to the series of poor decisions made by the developers, but still, what do you think of the concept of this gameplay experience itself? Let us know your thoughts below and join the polls in your community tab. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to support our content and stay updated.
Traditionally, we want to express our boundless gratitude to our sponsors.
Dear friends, your help is invaluable. We will be grateful for any support.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for spending this time with us. We really hope that we will have the opportunity to get in touch in the next video.
Take care of yourself.
And never give up.
Job's done.